Okay, one. You're live.
Okay. Today I want to wrap up everything, and I want to put an end to the presentation, the year-long presentation. Okay, on web services. Um, how come I'm looking at myself? Okay. First, I want to give you the topics. Okay, that I want to talk about today. I want to cut up the presentation roughly into about like three parts. First, I want to talk about data mapping. That's actually from '09, meaning from the advanced part, okay? But briefly on data mapping, and I will also go back to the design of data definition, and I will talk about how to, for example, do a switch of content type, a switch of data definition, and then I will move back to pages, okay, to look at, for example, how to find out blocks and formats attached to pages, at the page level, things like that. I will also briefly mention, for example, how to search for strings, how to replace strings in different fields, okay. So I will basically roughly cut up the presentation into these three parts. So first, let us briefly look at data mapping. I can't get into the details, okay, but at least I can talk about data mapping at the very high level, and then I can show you a program, a relatively short program to do that. Okay, data mapping is meaningful only when you do something like this, okay. You have a new design, and then you want to, for example, migrate, okay, your current site to the new design in one specific way. Well, of course, you need to switch the content type, okay, because we are talking about new design. So probably you have a new template. Most likely you have a new data definition to go with pages. Well, could be one or more, okay. For me, I only stick with one, so I don't have to deal with different data definitions, even with a single a new design. So for every new design, I basically use the same data definition, okay, from the older design. But for you, okay, you might end up with a new design, even a new data definition. So if you have a brand new data definition, okay, with different IDs, different structures, and so on, but you want to move, okay, the current data from the old data definition to the new data definition associated with new pages, then you need to deal with data mapping. Not just the structured data object, okay. You can also create a new metadata set for pages. So you might have new radio buttons, you might have new checkboxes in your metadata set. So when you migrate pages, okay, from one design to another design, you might need to deal with both, okay? Well, the data and the metadata. So the first topic I want to address to is how to do that, okay? Well, ideally, okay, you should minimize the changes of the metadata set. Well, I use singular, okay, because I always stick with one, okay, but you might have several. So I would try to minimize the changes, okay, made to a metadata set or a data definition when I move from one design to another design. That's why, okay, in the talk of my standard model, I basically emphasize one thing again and again. Try to make your data definition as rich as you can so that you don't have to change it from design to design. But there must be a starting point, okay? Let's say right now you have a very restricted, very limited, with very small number of fields, okay, in your data definition. Now you want to move into a more flexible data definition with a lot of fields and so on, okay? So you have to start somewhere. So if that's the case, then we need to deal with data mapping. Now let's say, okay, you start with well, I will in a second I will show you an example of how to do that with blocks, okay, with data definition blocks. But remember, the principles, okay, applied to data definition blocks are exactly the same set of principles, okay, you apply to pages with one extra layer. Well, let us look at data definition blocks first. For a block to be a data definition block, okay, well, you have to create a block associated with a data definition. Okay, for blocks like data definition blocks, okay, DD blocks, it's easy. You can actually switch, okay, the data definition and the associated structured data object directly. You can basically, okay, create a new structured data object and you assign it to the block. Then you can switch everything. Okay, that's easy. So let's say, okay, in a second, we're going to look at that program. You start with one, well, let me call it data definition A. And then this A is the current data definition. And then you have a data definition B, okay, the new one you want to move to. Now you have a block already in use, okay? So basically this block right now is associated with data definition A. You want to switch the data definition so that at the end it's associated with data definition B, but contain all the old data. Well, in the due course, okay, in the middle, you might change the identifiers, you might regroup fields, you might want to move fields around. I don't know, okay, but try to minimize those changes. But let's pretend for a second, okay, we want to change everything. We want to change all the identifiers. We want to reorganize the fields, okay, group them into groups. Well, maybe we started with something old, okay, something just like scattered around without grouping them. Now we want to reorganize everything, okay, so that we group those fields together. So let's look at a program, okay. I want to share my screen so that we know what we are talking about. So I'm looking at GitHub. Okay, GitHub. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So let us look at recipes and then, well, under PHP Cascade WSNS examples. Inside recipes, there's a folder called data mapping with 3 files inside. And we're going to look at these 3 files, okay? And well, we'll focus on the program, but in a second, okay? So let us look at the old data definition first. It's very simple, okay? So we have, well, let me pump up the size. Can you see the code?
Yeah, that looks better. Thanks.
Okay. So this is just like a simple data definition. I want to like basically assume, okay? So we have like 4 fields, okay? 1 text field here, okay, with the identifier header, and then a WYSIWYG, okay, with the identifier WYSIWYG. And then I have like 2 checkboxes, okay, for the sports, okay. And then the 4th one is a multiple field, okay. It's a text field, but multiple. Okay, so let us say, okay, let us assume, okay, we start with this data definition. Okay, it's currently in use. So we are like basically, okay, we are using this as the starting point. Now let us look at the new one. That's the second one. Well, you can see, okay, I'm changing the IDs, I'm grouping things into groups, I'm turning the checkboxes into radio buttons. I also need to take care of the multiple field, okay? So basically, we are reorganizing fields, but we are also renaming those fields by assigning different like identifiers. So that could be the worst, okay, that you can come up with.
Are you also changing the types?
I'm changing the type of this part. I'm changing the checkboxes to radio buttons.
Okay.
As an example.
Okay.
Okay. So bear in mind, okay, we need to deal with like identifiers. We need to deal with like the types of fields we are like working with. Well, for choosers, okay, that's normally straightforward. When you deal with like a file chooser, normally you map it into a file chooser. But you have to like watch out for something, okay? You might want to like go for the so-called like linkable chooser. In Cascade 7.12 and on, you can have like linkable choosers that you can like use one chooser to choose a file, a symlink, a page, those 3 things. So one chooser for three things.
Right.
Okay. So you have to like be careful about this. Okay. You need to map, okay, the correct like entity to the right chooser. Okay. If you like go for the linkable chooser.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Right.
So we have two different data definitions. Okay. One in use, one new, the targeted one. Okay. So we need to move everything from the current data definition to the new data definition. Okay, that's the aim of the exercise. So if we look at the program, well, first, okay, we need to like deal with IDs. So in the old data definition, well, the current one, okay, we have these IDs. Okay, so we have like header, WYSIWYG, sports, text 4, and then text 401, text 402. Okay, so because they are multiple. In the new data definition, we change everything around. Okay, so first we create some groups and then put things into those groups, and then the H1 corresponds to the H1 inside a group, and then the WYSIWYG is renamed as content, and then like inside a group, and then the sports becomes the hobby group. And then inside, we have like some checkboxes. Now we have like some radio buttons. And then the multiple text field, we have like a group before that. So a group and then a text note inside. So we are both changing, well, at least as far as the radio buttons and the checkboxes are concerned, we're changing the type. We are also changing the IDs, and we are grouping everything together into groups.
So you're creating new data definition fields in the groups, but you're also modifying their identifiers.
Yep. Okay, now let us look at the code, how to deal with this, Well, when we deal with pages, it's more or less the same. Of course, we need to deal with a lot more fields, but the principles are the same. So I want you to like to understand this simple example so that when we like talk about pages, it will make more sense. Okay, first I divide everything, all the fields, into two parts. First, single nodes, single meaning like versus multiple, So when you deal with like multiple nodes, you need to count how many instances a field is instantiated into like nodes. Let us put that aside first, So we are talking about just like normal nodes, So basically, we have a simple map like this, These are not multiple nodes. So we have like header mapped onto, well, basically one ID mapped onto another ID, So we are not dealing with multiple nodes right now. We are dealing with like just normal nodes, non-multiple nodes. Well, basically, you map one ID to another ID. Now, when I say ID, I'm talking about fully qualified identifiers. So you need to like work with fully qualified identifiers, not just like those IDs in your data definition. Instead, you see like semicolon everywhere.
Right.
Once you have this map, basically you copy the data from one structured data node, one structured data object to another structured data object. Basically, you just like map the data from one object to another object.
Right.
So let us look at the code. Well, here, I look at any text node, Well, text nodes are simple. I just like copy the node over because they are not chooser.
Right.
So basically, you read the text, from one text field, whether it's like a text box or WYSIWYG, whatever, you just copy things over using the new ID. And then the second part, deals with like radio buttons. Well, I'm mapping like checkboxes to radio buttons. I did it intentionally because, for checkboxes, you can check more than one values.
Right.
But for radio buttons, you can only pick one. You cannot pick like more than one.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
I'm creating a problem here. That's why I picked a mapping from checkboxes to radio buttons. So I need to check, okay, whether there's a default value. If there's a default, and if nothing is checked, okay, I will check the default. If you check like more than one checkboxes, well, you have to decide, okay, which one you want to keep, and then map it into like a radio button.
What if the user doesn't provide that choice? Does the code choose like the last checkbox?
The default.
Okay.
It will choose the default. Well, let's say, okay,
Okay.
you have two checkboxes. If nothing is checked on the radio buttons, okay, I'll check the default. But
Okay.
if you check one or two of them from the checkboxes, I'll pick the first one and then populate the radio button. Well, I have to pick one. I pick the first one.
Gotcha.
Okay. Well, because the problem was created intentionally in this way, well, you deal with whatever real scenario you need to deal with. Okay. Ideally, you probably don't want to do this. Okay. You just want to map radio buttons to radio buttons, checkboxes to checkboxes.
Yeah.
You rarely do this. Okay. I just created a problem to show you how to deal with that in case you need to.
Right, but as the writer, as the author of the library, that's something you have to think about.
Yes.
Kind of an edge case.
Yep. Now, I didn't really like talk about, well, this example doesn't deal with, like, for example, choosers, okay? So if you need to deal with choosers, okay, I would say probably the best approach is to just like map a file chooser to a file chooser, a page chooser to a page chooser, a sibling chooser to a sibling chooser. That's the most straightforward way. But if you want to like go for the linkable chooser, okay, you want to combine everything into one type. For example, you have like a page chooser here, a file chooser there. You want to map everything to linkable choosers, okay, let's say. Well, in my library, my linkable chooser, okay, allows you to plug in any type, okay, among those three. You can actually like map anything you want, okay, whether it's a page, whether it's a symlink, or whether it's like a file. It will the linkable, okay, class will take care of everything. So you don't need to worry about the type at all. You just like map whatever to the new one, assuming you use linkable. You don't use page, you don't use symlink, you don't use file. Instead, you use linkable.
Okay.
That's the parent class of these three classes. Well, linkable can figure out, okay, what you are trying to like deal with. But I would say if you don't want to like juggle with like three different types, okay, the most straightforward way is like to map a page chooser to a page chooser, a file chooser to a file chooser, and a sibling chooser to a sibling chooser.
Okay.
Well, you decide, okay. Now, once you can map, okay, non-multiple nodes, okay, like this, okay, from one ID to another ID, well, basically you need to, okay, deal with two types, okay. If it is a text node, then you basically like copy the text, okay, from the old node to the new node. If it is an asset chooser, then you basically plug that asset back to the chooser.
Right.
Well, that's the overall description. Straightforward enough. Okay?
Okay.
Now, multiple nodes. Well, just 3-4 lines of code, okay? But it gives you like an idea like how to deal with something like this. Well, first I assume, okay, you have a mapping from the first node of the old data definition to the first node of the new data definition. Well, once you give me that mapping, then you need to like calculate how many siblings there are, okay, in the current data, the current structured data. You create the exact number of nodes, okay, in the new structured data object. Once you have done that, you use a for loop, basically like copy everything over. Let's say in the old one, okay, well, the current one, you have like 4 instances, okay, let's say 4 instances, okay, 4 different nodes, okay, of the same field. Well, you create 4 instances in the new structured data object, and then you copy all the data from node 1 to node 1, from node 2 to node 2, from node 3 to node 3. Well, from node 0 to node 0.
Question, Wing.
Yep.
Are you talking about a case where you've created a data definition B, but you haven't defined the fields manually, and then you're defining them? Are you letting web services create the fields?
Well, when you create a data definition, okay, I'm talking about a data definition, you only create a field. You can specify, okay, this is a multiple field.
Right.
But because it's not in use, well, this is a new data definition. So we can't talk about like how many instances, okay, of a certain field. We can't really do that. We can only look at the current data definition and then the current block, and then like count how many instances there are in the current block. And then we basically like create exact number of copies, well, number of nokes, okay, in the new one, so that we can copy data over.
Okay.
So let's say right now, okay, in your blog, okay, let's say it's a slideshow, and in your blog, okay, you have like 5 different images, okay, with like captions and so on and so forth. So we are talking about 5 instances. Okay. Now, if you need to map, okay, this slideshow block, okay, from one data definition to another, well, new data definition. Well, in the new data definition, okay, you create a structured data object out of the data definition, and then you go to that field, okay, that multiple field, you create 5 instances. Once you're done, you map all the images, captions, and so on and so forth over to the new one, to the new structured data object. Does it make sense?
Yeah, but I guess what I'm wondering is here it looks like the create n instances for multiple field. It looks like that's creating whether it's check boxes or radio buttons. It looks like it's defining multiple check boxes or radio buttons in the data definition.
No, I'm not talking about checkboxes or radio buttons. I'm talking about a node that is preceded by the plus sign. Does it make sense? Okay, let me just like go inside Cascade. And
maybe I'm not familiar with that field.
I am talking about something like this. In a page, okay, you see this plus sign?
Uh-huh.
You click it, you create another instance.
Oh,
you
okay.
click it again, you create a third instance. I'm talking about these.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
Okay? These has nothing to do with like radio buttons or whatnot. It can be anything.
It could be a group, it could be a text field.
It can be a group, it can be a field, it can be anything.
Yeah. Just got it. Okay, I'm here now.
Okay. So let me go back to GitHub. Where is my GitHub? So you need to like watch out for like multiple fields so that you need to like map everything correctly. Well, right now, okay, I only have a group containing like multiple fields, okay. But if you have like multiple groups containing multiple fields, you need to like map everything correctly, okay. First, okay, let's say you have a group, but the group is multiple. Then you have to like look at the current block and see how many instances there are in the current block. You create so many groups, okay, in the new one. And then for each group, because okay, each group contains multiple nodes inside. So for every node, you have to like calculate how many instances there are in each instance of the group. Do you follow?
Right. Could you define again what it?
Okay. Let's say I have to make up something, not a slideshow, because normally a slideshow won't have like multiple nodes inside. Well, I can still make up something. Okay. Let's say you have a slideshow block containing just one group. Okay, but this group is multiple, so you can like repeat everything. Okay, so within the group, you can put in like a file chooser, okay, allowing people to pick, for example, a file, an image. Okay, so one group, one file chooser, but you provide several, like, well, one field, okay, a text field, okay, but that text field can be multiple. So you can, I don't know why you do that, okay, but let's say you can put in like multiple strings, okay, inside, so that those strings are like displayed in different areas. I'm
Right.
making things up,
Right.
okay?
Right.
So you have a group, that group can be repeated, and then within the group, okay, you have a field, but that text field can be repeated within the group.
Right.
So you might end up with something like this, okay? When you open a slideshow blog, okay, there are two groups, okay? Well, two instances of the same group, meaning two slides. In the first group, you might have like two instances of the text field, okay, in the first group. And then in the second group, you might have three.
Right.
So first group, you have two instances of the text field. The second group, you have three. So when you map data, you have to look at, okay, first, how many groups? Well, how many instances of the group? Well, two instances. Once you decide, okay, I have to create two instances of the group, then I need to go to the first one and then the second one. And then look at how many instances there are, okay, well, instances of the text field in each instance of the group.
Right.
And then create the correct number of like instances of the text fields.
Right. Right.
The first group, 2. The second group, 3.
Okay.
And then you map all the data over.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Well, the code looks simple, but you need to like plan very carefully and map everything exhaustively so that you won't miss anything. And you need to like, well, when you deal with like multiple fields, okay, you need to like look at every instance to see whether there's anything like multiple inside. And then you need to like use like nested for loops to go inside to map things correctly.
Gotcha.
Okay, I think that's enough, okay, to convince you, okay? You have to plan your data definition change, okay, very, very carefully so that you only do it once and don't do it again in the future.
Right.
That's why I encourage you, okay, to put everything into groups and group them like sensibly, well, in logical groups, okay? So that you start with groups. And then try not to make those groups, okay, into multiple like groups, okay. Normally, try to avoid that. You might need them somewhere, but try to avoid them. And then within a group, okay, you can have like multiple instances of like subgroups or fields and so on and so forth. But try not to like make things too complicated. But just make it like flexible enough to allow you to do layout, to allow you to do whatever you need to, without making it too complicated. Okay.
Have either of you ever like look back at a data definition you created like a couple years prior and really wanted to change like a identifier? You just didn't like the way you.
I never change identifiers. I never did that. So I don't have to deal with this.
Short answer, yes. I've looked at identifiers and gone, what was I thinking? That is totally meaningless. Let's make something that actually tells people what this is about. Yeah.
But you can't.
Exactly.
But I mean, the worst scenario, okay, is this. Okay, you change everything. Well, you just need to like come up with a sensible mapping, okay, from the old to the new, and then you deal with like each node one by one carefully. That's the worst scenario. But if you ask me, I have never done that before. So I don't know how complicated it can be, okay? I really don't know. Well, every time when I move on to a new design, I keep adding new groups, new fields. I never remove anything, and I never change any existing identifiers. That will simplify things a lot.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good rule of thumb.
That's the whole point of like the talk about like designing your data definition. I would say try to make it as flexible and as complicated as needed be, but not too complicated, okay? But try to make it flexible and try to make like, well, allow for future growth. Well, I would say most likely you will need to put in a lot of choosers, block choosers, file choosers, and so on, so that as placeholders that you can like use later on for like future designs. But I would say if you like plan it sensibly with like a bit of like just imagination, well, a few years from now, what will I need? If you like take that into account, I would say your change, from one data definition to another data definition shouldn't be too dramatic once you're done with something like reasonable.
Right.
So this basically, tells you, this example, like shows you how to deal with data definition blocks. But of course, for pages, it's a bit more complicated than this. Well, when you look at pages, you need to start with the content type. Of course, you need to like start with, you cannot like go directly to a new data definition, that's impossible. You have to go through the content type. So let's say, it's two different scenarios. First, you have a new content type, but an old data definition. Well, that's easy because the data definition doesn't change, You basically don't need data mapping. Everything will be mapped automatically because, the data definition is not changing,
Right.
You just change the data type. The content type. Now, the second scenario, you have a new data definition.
Right.
You're adding some fields, you're regrouping things. Well, that's how you deal with that scenario, by looking at this example. Well, when you look at pages, well, I assume for the discussion, I assume there's only one new data definition you need to tackle, If you are tackling like several of them, well, one at a time, So let's say you have a new content type and a new data definition. Well, you start with the page, Well, you retrieve the page. You retrieve, the data definition of well, you don't need the data definition of the old one. You need the structure data object of the old one, meaning the data container of the page. And then you go to the new content type, I'm talking about the targeted content type, the new one. Through the content type, you can retrieve the data definition, the new one. And through the data definition, you can retrieve the new structured data object. So you have one data object, the current one containing the current data, and then you have a new structured data object. So basically, you have two structured data objects. Then we have reduced everything back to this example. You deal with two structured data objects. One, the current container containing all the data. The new one. And then you have a map in between. Then you basically copy everything over to the new structured data object. So I'm assuming, you can deal with this part. So you have like one current structured data object containing all the current data, and then a new structured data object from the new data definition. You map all the data over.
So are we looking at the right script?
No, I don't have a script for you because I've never done this before. I cannot write a program to show you how to do that. I have to like create everything, starting from the template and so on and so forth to create an example like this.
Oh, okay.
I don't have an example because I have to like recreate everything. So I'm just like telling you the steps, to how to do that. First, you start with the current page. You retrieve the structured data. That's the container containing the page data. And then you look at the new content type. You retrieve the new data definition. And then through the new data definition, you retrieve the new structured data object. Then you map everything over.
Gotcha.
So now you are dealing with two structured data objects. One, the current one. The other, the new one, containing all the data. Now, the next step will be this. You switch the content type. Basically, you assign the new content type to the page. Once you have done that, all the old data will be gone. But remember, all the data have been mapped to the new structured data object already. Okay, so it's safe to switch the content type. Now you have a blank page, and then you need to assign the new structured data back to the page. Well, it's guaranteed to work because, okay, the new structured data object is licensed by the new data definition, and the new data definition is associated with the new content type. So everything is okay. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Go ahead.
If I understand this right, in essence, you are creating phantom nodes before you move over to the new data definition.
Oh, that's another issue.
Is that
well,
essentially right, that you're organizing the data in the way that the new one will be before you've applied the new data definition to the page?
If you bring in phantom nodes, then I need to step back. I assume you fix.
Well, conceptually speaking, it's a phantom until you've switched the content type, right?
I assume you fix all the phantom nodes before this.
Well, I'm not even talking about phantom nodes that previously exist. I'm thinking that, so you have a page with an old structured, old data definition. When you do this mapping, you're going to essentially arrange the structured data on the page to look like what it would look like when you apply the new data definition.
Yes.
And then you switch the content type on that page, so then the data matches the new data definition. But there's a very brief moment in there where you have an old data definition with a new structured.
No, it's the two steps are like reversed.
Okay.
You switch the content type first. So for a while, the page will be empty with no data inside.
But essentially, you're grabbing the phantom nodes that exist on the page because you haven't edited the page yet. Is that it? Or you're grabbing the data, switch the content type, and then map?
Yeah. Well, I assume you have
it's a matter of order which way you're thinking of doing it.
Okay, slow down. I will map everything to the new structured data object first to guarantee, the data is saved in memory.
In memory, okay, that's.
Yep. So
I understand.
That object is created before you do anything else. Okay. Basically, you start with the current page, you retrieve the structured data, the current container, and then you create the new structured data object out of the new data definition, and you map all the data over. So the data exists in memory.
Okay.
And then you switch to the content type. So for a while, the page will be empty.
Got you.
And then you assign the new structured data object back to the page.
Okay. No phantom nodes involved. Thank you.
Nope.
But I mean, I asked the question because in a way, what was it? The don't make Penny angry moment. So she's because in theory
they make use of old data. Yeah, in phantom nodes.
You could create a essentially you could switch the data definitions, grab the page in web services.
Yeah, I know what
you mean.
And
then remap it. But somewhere in that scenario, there's this moment where you have the data on the page does not match the data definition.
Well, for me, I never allow that.
Right.
That's why you need to work with two structured data objects. Both are licensed by different data definitions.
Gotcha.
But they are licensed.
That makes sense. Okay. I understand. It's all theoretical.
Yeah. So, I mean, this process can be really tricky, but if you do it carefully and you do it one page, as like a test, well, you basically need to back up everything, but you switch one page to make sure all the mapping are done properly, and you take care of all the scenarios before you do a real switch. Of course, you need to work with different page types or different data types, to make sure everything is taken care of. But if you deal with one page at a time, and you deal with well, you fine-tune everything carefully. Once you're happy with the result, then you can switch the whole site by running the program. So did I explain at least, okay, at the very high level, okay? Did I explain how to do data mapping?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank
Well,
you.
for metadata, it's similar, okay? Basically, you need to like map one field to another field, or like copy by copying like values, okay, from the old one to the new one. If you switch the type, okay, from radio buttons to checkboxes, okay, good luck, okay? But I have already shown you how to do that, okay? So it's more or less the same. But I would say mapping the data is a lot more difficult than mapping metadata, okay?
That's good news.
Okay, okay. Well, I've spent enough time, okay, well, more than enough time on this topic. So let's move on to the next one, okay? Well, switching content type, okay? Well, switching content type is relatively simple in the sense that in the library, okay, I provide you a single method to do that, okay? Switch content type, pages.
I think I've actually
I'm,
used this.
yeah, okay. Well, I'm looking at the examples folder and then recipes and then pages, okay? We're going to look at a few examples, okay, from this folder. But let me just like bring up switch content type, okay? Just a few lines of code, not much.
Now
Okay.
is this the version? Is this the method that requires the data definitions to be the same?
It doesn't care. Remember, if you have the same data definition, okay, associated with two content types, all the data will be kept. If you associate, okay, two different data definitions, okay, with two different content types, then all the data will be gone.
Yeah, but I thought you had two different kinds of methods. In one, there's an assumption that it makes.
No, I only have one.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Say that again. I didn't hear.
Maybe I'm just thinking of something else.
Okay, okay. Well, when you call set content type, okay, if you have the same data definition in both the new content type and the old content type, then you don't need to worry about like losing anything because you're not changing the data definition, okay? You're just changing the content type. Then all the data will be kept, okay? Everything will be mapped to the new one. But if you change the data definitions, okay, well, an old one and a new one, and you're also changing identifier and so on and so forth, this call, set content type, will erase all the old data. Okay? That's why it's very important, okay, to map the data first before you come to this part. And after you switch the content type, you need to assign the new structured data object back to the page. Otherwise, I mean you lose everything. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I split everything into several parts, okay? Well, switching content type is easy, but it's easy to lose everything. So I have to talk about mapping the data first, okay? So you have like one structured data, another structured data in memory before you come to like this part, switching the content type. Once you switch the content type, you need to deal with the structured data object again, okay? Put the data back. Otherwise, you lose everything.
Wing, is that method part of the page class or?
Yes. You mean this method, right?
Right.
Set content type. Yes, it's part of the page class. Yes. Well, I call it through the page object.
Right. Okay.
Okay. But this part, okay, assumes what we talked about a moment ago, okay, the data mapping part. Well, unless you don't need to worry about data mapping, meaning you deal with a single data definition in two content types, then you don't need to worry about that part.
Gotcha.
Okay. So again, just to summarize, if you are dealing with two different data definitions associated with pages, okay, one new one, one old one, well, the current one, then you need to like map data from the old one to the new one. Of course, you need to deal with that first before you switch the content type. Okay, but if you deal with like if you're dealing with one single data definition in two content types, then you don't need to worry about like data mapping because it's the same data definition. Okay, and because I always like well, I keep adding fields, but other than that, I don't remove fields, I don't change identifiers. Normally, I don't need to worry about data mapping. I just switch the content type and I will be okay. Questions?
I don't know why I'm finding that unintuitive. The idea that you have to migrate or map the data to, if you have a different data definition before you change the content type.
Well, underlyingly, okay, in Cascade, underlyingly, all the data, well, whatever data, okay, you put into a GUI, okay, they work this way. You have some data. The data is mapped, well, associated with a key, a 32-digit key. That key is a node ID. Node, okay, not I'm not talking about a field in the data definition, but a node in a structured data object. All the data, okay, I'm like associated with those like IDs. If you keep the same, well, you keep the data definition unchanged, okay, then all the IDs are unchanged. So one ID mapped to one piece of data. I don't care what content type we are talking about. I don't care. As long as this ID data mapping is intact, is not changed, I'm fine. So when you like deal with the same data definition with two new content types, the IDs are not changed. Okay? But if you deal with two different data definitions, one old, one new, you are changing everything.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yep. So when you like, for me, okay, for me, I already like changed content types like several times now, at least 3 times now. But if you look at the database, all those IDs are still intact. They are never changed because I don't change the data definition. Of course, I have new fields, then new IDs, of course, okay. But existing IDs are intact. They are never changed because I'm not changing the data definition.
Right.
So when you map one design to another design, everything will just like move onto the new design smoothly without any glitches, provided you don't change your data definition, or at least you don't remove fields, you don't change IDs, you don't do anything of that kind, then you should be fine.
Right. Okay.
That's why I said, I like right at the beginning, I said, okay, if you change your IDs, if you regroup everything, well, when you regroup everything, you are changing the IDs as well. Because IDs are in the sense of like fully qualified identifiers. That works exactly the same way in Cascade. So if you change the grouping, okay, you move one node from one group to another group, you are changing the IDs as well.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, that's why I would say you want to have this pane, okay, only once. You do it well, okay, right at the beginning, okay. Of course, okay, from the old design to the current design, you have to map everything. But from this point on, you shouldn't be like removing fields. You shouldn't be like changing identifiers. You shouldn't be doing anything like that at all. Then in the future, you won't run into this problem again.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So switching content type is easy. Okay. Assuming you can deal with the data mapping part, switching content type should be easy. But we left out a major part. Okay. Well, that part actually like worries. Well, that problem. I mean, troubles like Eric Espana before. I'm talking about blocks and formats. Okay, attached to regions at the page level. Okay. So let us talk about that briefly. Well, again, for me, okay, I don't have this problem because I don't have regions. Well, I only have one region, okay, in my design. So Nothing attached to regions, okay, at the page level. Nothing at all. Okay, so I don't need to deal with that part. But in case, okay, well, most likely you're still like dealing with regions, okay? So you need to like deal with like, okay, well, first you need to find out, okay, what blocks and what formats are attached to pages, okay, at the page level. And then you need to like do that after you switch the content type. Assuming, okay, you have the same number of regions, okay, from one to the other. If you don't, okay, then you need to do like region mapping, not data mapping, okay? I'm talking about region mapping now. So let's say, okay, in the current design, you have like 10 regions. In the new design, you only have 8. Somehow you remove 2 of them, okay? Then you need to decide, okay, what to do with those 2 missing regions. I don't know, okay? You need to decide. On the other hand, if you are increasing the number of regions, probably you should be okay. Okay, you just like map one to the corresponding one, okay, because you are not removing regions. So it depends, okay. It depends on like how your current setup and your future setup are to make sense of this discussion. But I'm assuming, okay, there's a 1-1 mapping, okay, from one region in the old design to another region in the new design. Okay, I assume that much. Otherwise, I mean, it won't make sense to talk about like how to do mapping. Now, in the page class, okay, there's a method. I need to find that first. Structured data. Let's see. Get dynamic new structured data. Page level format. Yep, this one. Okay. There's a method. Defined in the page class, okay, get block format map. This method returns an array telling you, okay, what blocks, what formats are attached to what region at the page level. Now, I have to emphasize one thing, okay? I'm talking about page level blocks and formats only. If you like want to find out, okay, what blocks and formats are attached to pages at the config level or at the template level, this method won't work. It only works for page level blocks and formats. Okay, and that's the thing we need to worry about when we switch content type. So you can use this, okay, to grab the information, okay, and then you look at the array. And then the array will tell you, okay, at this region, okay, there's a block. At this region, okay, there's a format. Well, basically, you have all the information you need, okay? You just need to, like, basically map everything from the old one to the new one, assuming you have, like, a 1-1 region mapping.
Right, and this is something you would do before switching the content type.
No, after.
But you would get the map
you need to retrieve the information before you switch the content type, okay? Right. Basically, you need to call this first.
Right.
Well, if you lay down the steps, okay, first you need to map the data. You need to map the metadata. And then you grab the information of like formats and blocks, okay, at the page level. You do all these first. And then you switch the content type. And then you assign the new structured data back to the page. And then you assign the new metadata object to the page. Well, the last part deal with like blocks and formats. But you have to use the new content type to make sense of this because you have new regions in the new design, right?
Right.
Question. What about page level region assignments?
Page level region assignment.
So when you update a content type, if a page
Yep.
that you're working on happens to have a locally assigned, the region is assigned at the page level.
Yeah.
And switching content types may.
We'll lose everything.
Out.
You lose everything, right? Yep.
So you would need to map what the old regions were, change the content type, and then refigure out the page level assignments.
Precisely. Well, this line will store everything in this block format info. Well, I'm saying before the switch of the content type, you call this first.
Right.
Then this variable block format info will store all the page level information. And then you
Gotcha.
use it to plug everything back after the switch of the content type.
Nice. That's probably one of the biggest things I deal with if I'm ever in a position of
Well,
switching content.
you should try this method call and look at the array, what it returns to you. And it will give you enough information like to deal with like the regions and so on.
Okay.
Okay. So I would say, okay, just to recap whatever you need to do, okay, in the preceding discussion. First, you start with a page, okay, and then through the page, you retrieve the metadata object, you retrieve the structured data object, and then you retrieve, okay, the format and block information, okay, off the page at the page level. So you need to deal with these three pieces of information, meaning all the data, okay. So structured data, metadata, and page level format and blocks. You retrieve these three pieces of information. Once you have these, okay, sitting, well, associated with three variables, then you switch the content type. After that, you plug the structured data object back to the page. You plug the metadata object back to the page, and then you go through the regions, okay, mapping all the blocks and formats back to the page at the page level. That's the procedures.
What if you don't have page level region assignments, but you have configuration set level?
Well, this array will be empty.
Right, right. Is there a way to get a map of the configuration set, any configuration set assignments?
Oh yes, you need to retrieve the configuration set object, and then retrieve the configuration object. Well, remember, a configuration set is a set of configurations.
Or the different
So
outputs.
we retrieve the set object first, and then we retrieve the configuration object, for example, the desktop, whatever, and then you retrieve the formats and blocks, okay, attached to different regions at that level.
Right. Okay. Okay. Good to know.
Okay, but normally you don't do that, because when you deal with like blocks and formats attached at the configuration level, you can manually do that, because we are talking about 1, 2, 3, at most 5 configurations, right? You don't need web services.
Oh, right, right, right. Gotcha.
Because it's the configuration level, so you can do it manually.
Right.
You don't need to write a program to do that.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
But you need to deal with like pages, okay, at the page level. Of course, we are talking about like thousands of pages. But configuration sets, a few, maybe 5, maybe 6.
Right. Gotcha.
So you don't need to worry about that with web services. Don't bother.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so we have looked at like 2 parts, okay, already. The first part is about data mapping. The second part is about like switching content type, and then like plugging all the blocks and formats back to the page at the page level. Okay. Now, the third part is about like, well, daily maintenance of pages, okay, without doing something dramatic. So, for example, you can, like search for a string. You can look for something and replace it with something in a certain field, something like that. Okay. So we are talking about normal maintenance. Okay. Nothing like a new design. Okay. Not something that dramatic. So I provide you a whole bunch of like methods. Okay, to deal with a single field. For example, here I'm looking at like replace tags. Okay, replace tags, okay, is very simple. It's just a string replacement. So whenever I see the string in this field, I replace it with the replacement. That's all. No regex, nothing like that. Okay, this is a simple string replacement. So here I am looking for something like this, okay, because we have a web, okay, for like development, and then a production server, www. So we basically, okay, well, we accidentally like put in something like web.upstate.edu. Well, we need to replace everything using www.upstate.edu, okay. to make sure all the links works, okay, outside the firewall. Well, you can do something like this, okay, symbol string replacement. Or, well, you're replacing your president, okay, so the old president is gone. You have a new president, okay, you need to replace all the old names, okay, with the new name, okay. You can do something like this, okay, across the board, okay. So look at every page, search for every text field, okay. Whenever you see Joe Smith, okay, replace it with John Doe. Okay, so this is easy. Now, besides like simple string replacement, okay, I also provide you something like regex. Well, let us look at search first. Search text, okay, by pattern. So you can actually, okay, look at any field you want, okay, and then you basically, okay, give me a report of whatever text, okay, meeting the criterion of this regex. Then tell me the page path or whatever. So this examples, okay, shows you how to search for something, okay, across text fields, across like WYSIWYGs and so on. This is just searching, okay, not replacing anything. Just a report, okay, okay. This string is found in this page, in this page, and this page, and so on. Okay, so you can like put in a regex expression. Okay, here I'm like looking for like web again, but anything like containing web.upstate.edu, okay, replace it with www, okay. Well, this is a report. Sorry, so I'm not replacing anything. I'm just searching. Okay. This program, yeah.
Sorry, which field are you, or could you show in your code where you're specifying the field that you're searching in?
Okay. Let's see. Pattern, and then down here in the results. I think I'm searching everything, all the text fields, because nothing is specified here. Oh, well, I need to look at the code, okay? But right now I don't recall anything specific about like which field, okay? So I believe it searches everything.
Well, that's even better.
No fields are specified here. I believe, okay, if you look at, well, let me bring it up. So let's look at the API documentation and then pages. Search.
I wish I had known about this because I recently wrote a script from scratch using your library.
Okay.
To search for title fields, like the metadata field that had white space characters in it. That like
okay.
Like tabs, like crazy things like tabs and stuff.
Okay, pattern replace. So it does all like across the board replacement. But this one, okay, this one. So I'm looking at like replace by pattern, okay. You can specify what nodes to include. If you leave it blank, meaning if it is null, then I search for all text nodes. But if you like include an array here, giving me the fully qualified identifiers, then I only search for those fields or replace text in those fields. So it depends on whether you plug in a third parameter.
Question to follow up to Eric's previous question. So does this include metadata text information in the metadata?
No, it doesn't do anything with metadata. This is about like real data.
Okay.
When you work with like metadata, you work with the metadata object. Unfortunately, I don't play with metadata like too often, so I don't like do like string replacement too much in metadata. Normally, I don't do that. That's one weak point in my library. You can say that because I don't do that. But to enhance that part, it's easy. It's relatively easy. I can add more methods.
But you could write your own global function to do something
Exactly.
like that, right?
When you traverse a tree, traverse like a folder, you can of course like write up your own function inside your global function. Yeah, of course.
I
I
think
just like don't provide you anything to work with metadata.
I had previously mentioned that I'd created a tool that converts a page content into JSON, does a string
Yep.
search. That,
Yep.
for instance, includes metadata as well because it's part of the page object.
Ah, okay. Actually, because right now my main focus is on velocity.
Right.
When I'm done, I might want to like go back to web services and look at your work and like especially the JSON part. It sounds extremely interesting to me, but right now I am too occupied like in velocity, so I won't do anything right now.
Understand.
Well, I don't think Eric would want to share his work until after the conference anyway, right?
Well, I don't include this in my talk, so it's safe.
Okay.
But I would say, well, in my presentation, I will kind of like criticize, okay, Cascade people, Cascade, not Helen and Hill people, okay, criticizing Cascade people in general, that we don't have a lot of sharing going on, in the sense that everybody is busy like writing their own code. They can talk about like how they do things, but not showing people exactly what they do, what they did, okay, or even okay, one step further. Well, this is what I've been doing. I write code for other people to use. That's lacking in general, okay, in Cascade. I would encourage you guys, okay, to do the same thing or similar things, okay, to write code for other people to use, and you're willing to share it with everybody.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I agree. I think part of the problem is there, as far as I've determined, there isn't a easy way to share two ways, like code. Like we have GitHub, and
Yep.
GitHub's great for individuals like you to push your data up,
Yep.
and then other people can download it. But then once they download it, like once I download your repository from GitHub,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I can't upload any of my variations or creations based on your work because I don't have permission to your repository, right?
Well, I can open it up. Well, actually, Chris has already done that. He changed one file and then he asked me like to commit it, and then I did. So that file has like both orders in it. I have already done that. So it's possible. I still need to like figure out exactly like what I need to go through to do that. But I would say it's possible.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, it's
You,
collaboration. Of course, I mean, GitHub encourages like us to do that, of course.
yeah. I guess I don't find it that like some of the terminology to do that that intuitive, but
Mm-hmm.
but I think if more and more people get comfortable with that
Yep.
process, I think
Yep.
that would go a long way towards.
Well, I don't feel
Sure.
comfortable at all, but I would try. I'm just saying, okay, let me just show you in the library file. Chris did something to the class file. Or yep, he did. So he did something to this file, and I committed the file and put his name here as well. So This file is co-authored by 2 people.
But I think you see your point, Eric, that it's because there are instances when you want to show people what sort of work that you're doing so that others can
Yeah,
incorporate it into it. You don't necessarily want to be modifying other people's code,
yeah,
creating that
yeah.
blend yourself, but just having a place where you can go, oh, this is how we did it, this is how they did it, and leave it up to the people to go, oh, look, this part could work here or this part could work there.
Mm, mm, mm,
Um,
mm. Well,
GitHub's
then
more
I would
about,
say,
updating a single thing so that you create one essential library of material.
yeah, yeah, precisely what I've been doing
Yeah.
before this point. You basically, okay, write some code, and then, well, when you write the code, you basically say, okay, I need to like remove all the proprietary data, all the business logic, so that other people can use my code. Well, you write the code, and then of course you still need to write your own code to use your own library. And then you basically tell other people, okay, I have a library for you to use, okay, this is how you use it, and this is what it does. And then we can talk about collaboration later.
Yeah, no, all good
That's what I've been
points.
doing.
Yeah, good points. Maybe we
So
could
I
talk
would
about that some
encourage,
more.
okay, both of you, I mean, to think in terms of like, okay, can I like write this in a more general way so that other people can use, instead of just like showing them the ways of doing things instead of like the code to use? Well, maybe I'm asking a lot, okay? I know you have to like have a specific mindset to write your own code, your code in a certain way so that other people can use your code.
Yeah, there
I
is
know that.
overhead to that. Um, when I did the talk a couple years ago, um, people had asked me for code examples, and I found myself spending a lot of time scrubbing my code from specifics to my site. Not
Exactly.
not only not only for their general use, but also to make sure I don't expose some element from a security point of view.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's what I meant a moment ago. When you write code to do that, you have to have a clear line between whatever you want other people to look at uh, versus, okay, whatever you yourself, okay, can only see. So basically, whenever I do, for example, okay, well, my library, okay, the web services library or the velocity library, I keep everything apart so that, well, I even name them specifically so that I know, okay, this is for everybody. This is just for me. I name all the files accordingly, so I know what to send people, what not to. But because when I write code, I have a clear definition in mind. I don't need to like remodify all my code just to make it work for other people. Because when I write the first line, I know this file is for other people to use. I won't integrate anything from Upstate into this file. That's how
Nice.
I write my library code.
Very forward
Yeah, I
looking,
know
more
it.
so than we are, at least me.
I know this is a totally different mentality, but I would encourage you guys to do exactly the same thing, so that we can pool our efforts together without like everybody writing their own code and reinventing the wheel again and again and again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
that's
sorry.
my point of view.
Yeah, it's a good point, and definitely something we should continue to discuss.
Yeah, why not?
Doesn't Hen and
We're
Hill have
retiring
a
in less than
site
two
for
years.
sharing code?
Sorry.
Doesn't Hen and Hill have a site for sharing code? Which makes me wonder if I'm a
Um,
part of that.
I don't think they have like a systematic way of doing that. Well, of course they have
Well,
GitHub.
yeah.
They have like okay, you have some code, you can push it into their site. But still, I don't think this is like systematic enough so that people can actually like go there, grab the code, and use it. Not that easy.
Oh, I just have some recollection that they had set up some sites. much like their knowledge base, except meant for third parties like us to submit some
I
code.
don't know of anything. I
I
know
remember
in
it. I
that.
just don't remember where it is because obviously it's embedded. But that's
Eric, are you talking about the exchange?
yes, I think so. Are you a part of that?
No, I don't believe I've submitted anything, but Wing's library is there.
You are talking about Cascade Exchange, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Th- that part is just a website like pulling all the resources together, but they can be like outlinks so that you like read about something and then you go somewhere else to grab the code. So it doesn't matter whether the code is on GitHub or on a website. It doesn't matter. They just like pull all the resources together into that site.
Gotcha.
But for sharing code, I believe they only use like GitHub.
Yeah, you're right. It's not as
But unfortunately, I mean, if you look at GitHub, I mean, the code in GitHub is like kind of like stagnant for years now. I love to see some new code there. Especially, I mean, because we are like enhancing, like for example, velocity in many ways. I love to see like new code examples and so on and so forth, like reusable code there. Instead of okay, just like use this, okay, you figure out how.
Right, right. Yeah.
Well, I would say that should be enough, okay, for today. Well, I have like touched upon three different parts, okay, just briefly, because this is the last hangout, so I can't really like go too deep into the details. But at least I touch upon like well considerably, okay, on the first part, data mapping. That's the most important part. Otherwise, I mean, I would say if you like want to use my library to deal with pages, you just need to like understand the the overall structure. For example, like starting from the page object to the structured data object to the metadata object, and then you can like visit all those regions, okay, like looking at like formats and blocks and so on. Once you understand the mechanism of it, then you just need to like okay find the correct method to call or methods to call to deal with whatever you need to deal with. I would say my library is rich enough. Okay, well, one part missing, pointed out by Eric Gorka. Okay, I don't deal with like metadata too much. Okay, with like string replacements and so on. But other than that, I would say everything you need. Okay, should be there. If you find something missing, let me know. I promise. Okay, someday I will come back to my web service library and probably like revise everything. But right now, my focus is on velocity. So I can only make a promise. Any
Okay.
feedback to wrap up everything?
Well, the last one, huh?
Yep, this is the last one. I think it's been like dragging long enough, okay, on and on.
I think no, thanks, Wing. Um, I think I would be open to having a hangout in the future to check in to see if anyone has been working in the with the web services library and to sort of kind of
Oh, sure,
catch up.
sure, sure.
Maybe
Actually, I
more
mean,
as an idea exchange of ideas.
okay. Well, actually, well, we've been like talking about like another series of hangouts, okay, talking about velocity. Actually, I also have a kind of like an idea, okay? I want to redo the web service part again, but this time probably using a different approach. Do it more slowly, but like deeper into the gritty parts of like web services. I don't know because I have like training someone in mind. Okay, so I have to train this person in the next 2 years. So I may do another series on web services, but that's like after velocity.
Okay, that's good to know. So stay tuned. We should stay tuned for a velocity hangout.
Say that again.
So we should stay tuned for a velocity hangout sometime after the conference, you think?
Well, I have to wait until like this new person that comes to work here before I can start. So that will be sometime after the conference. And as I said, well, this person must be knowledgeable of like basics first before I can even like start talking about what I want to talk about, like reflection, how to create objects, and so on and so forth in velocity.
Okay, fair enough.
So
fair
that
enough.
will be sometime after October, probably.
Well, I would suggest meeting at the conference. I assume we're all going?
Yes.
And,
well, we are all presenting.
oh, good. Then we are going. Although I have seen one presentation given remotely once in all these years. But let's sit down and chat.
Sure.
Know, we can brainstorm about future hangout ideas, or just have a coffee or a beer.
Oh, sure. I'd love to.
Yeah. That's a great idea, Aaron.
Okay, let me get out of this first. Oh, I have stopped sharing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, that sounds great, Eric. And then as far as maybe getting together to talk about our presentations a little bit, maybe we can set something up in September, early September, late August, whatever works for you guys.
Sounds good.
If you want.
Sure. I love feedbacks.
Yeah. Cool. Well, this was really really informative, Wayne. Thanks for taking the time to
oh, you're welcome.
Share all this.
I mean, I love doing this. The only problem for me is, I mean, this is the first time, so that I mean, there are so many things unexpected, so many glitches here and there, especially right at the beginning. Remember?
Yeah.
I would say next time, if I am to do it again, next time probably it will be like better organized. At least I have like now I have kind of like a better idea of like measurement of like the pace, the speed, and like what not to touch. So if there's a next time, I hope it will be better. But thank you guys for all the support, all the feedbacks, all the inputs you have been like putting in.
Our pleasure.
And I really hope, okay, the library helps. At least it helps you like to solve your daily problems a little, so that to make your life a bit easier.
Yeah, sure. It has definitely come in handy for me. So yeah, thanks again, Wing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But think about it, okay? Think about it seriously. Next time when you like start like typing code, just think in terms of like, can I write this piece of code in a more general way to make it like usable for other people? I mean, once you have like start thinking in that way, I would say our life will be a lot better.
Right. Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, we'll definitely give it some thought.
Thank you.
All right. So Eric, anything else you want to talk about before we conclude?
Not that I could think of at the moment. Look forward to seeing you both at the conference. And
okay.
Let us know about what timing for doing a little,
mock presentation.
Mock presentation. Propose some dates. We'll figure it out.
Sounds good. Yeah, and Eric Gorka, thanks for waking up or for joining us so early in the morning. Seriously, appreciate it.
No problem. Hope my son, who was banging on the doors back here, wasn't too loud. He was, why aren't you letting me in?
Yeah, we've been watching him grow
all
up.
about web services, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah, that's funny. All right, Wing. Well, thanks again.
Thank
And,
you.
yeah, we'll be in touch.
All right.
Okay.
Take care to you both.
Same to you.